Hello and welcome, everyone. This is preparing for the H-1B CAP Season 2020 updates presented by Giselle Carson at Marks Gray, PA. I'm Ellen Mazudian, and I'm an immigration specialist at Marks Gray. So thank you all for joining us. We just want to make sure everyone can hear. So, all right, got confirmation we can hear. Just want to do a quick run through of items before getting started. So many of you who are joining us today also were in our previous webinar a few weeks ago. So thank you for coming back for these updates. We have with us employers, employees, students. We have people who are fairly new to this process. Some have lots of experience with this process, others somewhere in the middle. So we welcome you again for joining us today to learn more about the updates on the H-1B CAP process this year. So this webinar is planned to be for about an hour. And of course, we encourage you to be engaged, ask questions. You'll see a little Q&A box, which you can ask questions directly. And if you need clarification on anything that was said, please feel free to reach out. And if you have a question that's general for the group, we definitely welcome that. If you have a little bit more specific questions relating to your individual situation, we would then recommend that you contact us after the presentation. And then Giselle will be happy to answer your question over email or phone. So please note that this webinar will be recorded. So if anyone has to leave early or just simply needs it later, just email us and we'll be happy to send it to you. So with that being said, we're ready to go, and I'll pass it off to Giselle, immigration attorney for over 15 years, and she'll get straight down to it.
Thank you, Ellen, for that intro, and thank you for all of you for being here on this webinar. I am going to start with just a little bit of an overview as to what we're going to be talking about. Again, as Ellen said, some of you on the call are brand new to H-1Bs, so I will cover the basics very quickly. Same with the CAP and lottery basics. And then we're going to start going more into what's new this year. Timelines, CPT, OPT, and STEM, travel, which I always get questions about. New and ongoing challenges and how we're addressing the challenges. And once your petition is accepted, file, now what? So I'll try to cover as much of this as I can. As Ellen said, this is truly, this is for you. We're living this every day. So if you have general questions that you think will benefit the group, you can send us that, and I will try to incorporate them in the webinar. Sometimes they're very specific, and I will not get to those. Next, I'm going to start with this slide that is a little bit different in a sense because it's truly what is driving this webinar. Literally this morning, I met with 3 clients. Some of them going through this H-1B process, and these are HR professionals. One is an HR professional, the other one was a high-level manager, the other one was an executive, all 3 having H-1Bs that we're working with this year. These are people that carve time in their schedule because they had other meetings going on, and they met with me so that we could go through the MyUSCIS and setting up the accounts and prevailing wages and other things. These are people that have pretty full inboxes. They have human resources issues going on. They have families and travel. One of them had just come back from Mexico from a trip. Many other things going on. And then there is immigration. And it is critical to understand and recognize that the timeline this year is extremely tight, more than we've ever had it before. And one of the manager, the high-level manager that I met with this morning, he is a technology person, a technology company. And as I was talking through the process and the complexity of the MyUSCIS account of what we know so far, and he says to me, and just wait and see what the complications are going to be, or if the system crashes. And I thought, oh my God, Peter, yeah, and that is my greatest fear. So all of that comes into play. So I'm telling you all of this to say, one, kudos for being on the call and being proactive, and trying to learn as much as you can, and 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 plan accordingly, because this scenario of meetings, vacations, emergencies, mailboxes full, uh, kids having to go places, family emergencies are going to happen. And it can derail the plans very quickly in a very short period of time. And so that was my comment. The comment from the high level manager was, just wait until the system crashes. The comment from the executive that I met this morning was, and he's from France, so he says to me, "Ce que tu peux pas changer, tu embrasses." And that means that you cannot change, you embrace. And I truly, I've been working with this company for over 5 years, and he is so positive. Despite all the changes that we have gone through, he always has some quote for me that is positive. So I figure I would share that quote with you as we go through this process. C'est que tu peux pas changer, tu embrasses. And with that said, the next slide is also about our team, um, and how we are embracing this process. Um, we're nervous, as to what, what is going to happen. We have uncertainty and fear, just like all of you. um, but we've been doing this for a while. We are here, we have embraced the change, um, and we are excited to be working with you, and particularly because, again, many of our clients are on the call, and you are engaged, and you are going to help us get through this process in this together. And this slide in the center picture there at the bottom is our core team. That's Ellen to my right or left. I'm in the middle for those of you who have not met me, and then I have, and Gabby's right beside me, and Tyra is at the other end. So the two at the bookends are Ellen and Tyra, which many of you know and have worked with. Also Gabby and myself. And again, we are optimistic, embracing this process, and confident that together we'll make it through successfully. So for those of you that don't know much about the H-1Bs, this very quickly, I'm going to go through the slide. The basics are, it requires at least a U.S. bachelor's degree or its equivalent or higher. You must be working on a specialty occupation, and it's an employer-based visa. Initially is given to a maximum of 3 years, with a potential extension to a maximum of 6. There are some exceptions to that, but that's the general rule. This next one is important, because remember my tech manager that said the potential crashing of systems. There are various systems involved in this process, in this current process, that are new. The My USCIS account being one of them, and the LCA, the flag system, which is fairly new. We've been using it for about 6 months. Um, and that one, in order to file an H-1B, we need to file the LCA and get it certified before before the H-1B petition is filed. So that system had a few glitches, and they continue to work with it and update it. Whether it would handle 200,000, whatever many LCAs are filed, we'll see. Our plan is to file LCAs as soon as we can file LCAs, and hopefully take that fear away. The fiscal year runs from October 1st through September 30th, and this is very important, because for some of you that don't know this, talking to a client yesterday that asked me, well, if they get selected, I don't need them until the end of the year. And I said, well, fabulous. Actually, most of my clients are not in that situation. Most of my clients need the person tomorrow. And when I tell them that they need to wait until October 1st, that could be a problem. But for this particular client yesterday, the foreign national is abroad, and the October 1st kind of works with their timeline, and that's what it is. It's the spouse and unmarried children of the H-1B beneficiary can apply for an H-4. So again, these are just general basics. And the next slide is also general basics. Many that have not heard about this cap, they go, what is that all about? Um, it's an annual visa limit that has been set by Congress. It's a 85,000 total. Out of those 85,000, 20,000 have been specifically reserved for U.S. master's degrees. And that is very important. It's very important for many of our clients, as many of them are in that category. And that is a benefit because those that have the U.S. master's degree will have a slightly higher chance of getting the H-1B visas. So, and here is the you know part of the reason where we're having this call, and this is not new. We've had this lottery, as many of you that are seasoned with this process. The lottery has been happening at least for 6 or 7 years. The reason it's happening is because there is more demand for these visas that there are visas available. On average, in the last few years, there have been over 200,000 petitions, petitions filed, and again, 85,000 get selected. It's a computer-generated random selection. Now, here's where the U.S. Masters come into play. The system or the lottery was changed last year. So this last year and this year, what is going to happen is all of the registrations, because this year won't necessarily be petitions, so all of the registrations will get put into the lottery. So let's say USCIS receives 200,000 registrations. All of them go through the lottery. The first 65 get selected, 65,000, and then out of those that were registered, all of the U.S. masters that were not selected as part of the 65 will go into their own 20,000 U.S. masters, so that to some degree they have a double opportunity there. And then I get asked a lot about the premium processing. Obviously, through the registration process, there is no premium, and we, as of today, we don't know whether premium processing will be available. USCIS has not told us, but do know that premium processing will not change the odds as to whether you get selected on the lottery or not. Premium processing, and some of you that are my clients know that if you talked to me 3 years ago, on a solid case, I would have definitely say, let's use premium processing. Today, it is a strategic decision. So we'll evaluate that opportunity as it presents itself. Some of you that are also on the call may be wondering, well, why are you telling me to apply for an H-1B visa when I have to go through this lottery and there is, potentially a 50% chance of getting it? Well, as of today, also, the H-1B really continues to be, even though we have this lottery system to select high-skilled workers to work, it continues to be one of the strongest avenues or visa to obtain a non-immigrant visa for a professional worker in the United States, and that is why there are so many applications that are being filed, because it truly is the professional visa for those that need a professional visa to work in the United States. There are other visas out there, but they all come with their own complexities. So this is kind of a general graph as to what has happened in the last few years. So again, average of about 200,000 for the 85,000 And those with the U.S. master's degree, again, last year, we noticed, I don't think necessarily significant statistics that come out of it, but us in our practice, we did notice that that made a difference in the number, in the applicants that, or the beneficiaries that got selected. Okay, so here we go. This is what's new, what we know that is new for 2020. Um, and I was on a radio show just the other day speaking about the H-1B visas, and I said to the as we were talking about the process, it is almost like going into tax season, and on April 1st, you still don't know what app or registration system you will be using on April 15th. So here's where we are today. We know we have an online registration system via the My USCIS online portal. And I'm going to go into a lot more detail on all of this. My USCIS online portal has been in existence. Very few petitions are open for filing through that My USCIS portal right now. And if you go into My USCIS right now, you will see that there is an H-1B registration link. But if you click on that link, it takes you nowhere. So it's not available for us to see, or anybody, what is back there. We have created My USCIS account for the attorneys have been able to do that. The employers or the petitioners, the registrants, and I'm going to go through the new terminology. This is also part of all of this. That will come available starting February 24th. We know now that there is an additional fee, which is $10, which is, a minimal fee, which in my view, it's potentially not, I don't even know why they came up with a $10 fee, really, because it's not going to be a deterrent to the filings. And on the other side, it may increase the number of filings just because of that. Terminology. This is new, and to me, it was a little confusing when I started reading all of this. But know that there's going to be, when you register in the My USCIS account, the employers, the prospective petitioners, the sponsoring employers are the registrants. They are the ones that are sponsoring the H-1B visa. They will, as of February 24th, will be available to create their own registrant My USCIS account. That registrant or that account, that My USCIS account, is going to have to have a signatory. That signatory is the person that is authorized to represent the company and accept the legal representation that we will be filing and the registrations that we will be filing. The signatory is someone that should be strategically thought about. It should be someone that is accessible, that has good grasp of technology, that will be able to go into the account, save the passwords, and be accessible to jump in and coordinate with us or whoever your immigration attorney is. That person, according to USCIS, the last call that we have had with us, does not necessarily need to be the same person that signs the LCA or that signs the I-129 immigration forms. But again, it's someone that should be strategically appointed. Now, this is another new thing in the terminology. We are going to have, so again, this all refers to the registration process. We're going to have, once the registration is submitted, the screen is going to say submitted. So that's pretty straightforward. A registration which shows submitted after its initial submission. And also after the selection, after the initial selection or initial processing happens. Then once a submitted registration is selected, it will show selected under the My USCIS account. Those that USCIS for some reason finds that they're duplicates, as you probably know, we cannot file, you know, you cannot file 2 or 3 or more than one, basically, registrations per beneficiary. So if there are more than one, then the registration will show as denied. The thing that is interesting to me, and again, we're still waiting to hear. Well, actually, the two next bullet points here. The lottery timeline. So one of the positive things about this is whether you, again, the premium processing won't affect this year when you're going to know where you're selected or not. So as of March 31st, USCIS has said that by March 31st, we should know who was selected. So those selected, their My USCIS account is going to say selected. So wonderful. At least we're not going to have to wait until the middle of August to know if someone was selected. So this is a great thing. The next one is still, we don't have a lot of clarity on this, but according to USCIS, they're going to create a wait list of unselected submitted petitions. So, or submitted registrations actually. So these are registrations that were filed, submitted, and they were not selected, but they were not denied. So they're going to be on a wait list of unselected petitions, and we don't know what is going to happen to them according to USCIS, depending on whether they don't have enough or they decide to not accept some of the ones that they received. Some of this wait list of petitions may get notified at some point that they were selected. Um, I'm not counting on this selections much, so those that don't get selected the first time around by March 31st, we certainly have to start coming up with what's next, what next avenue. But again, it's going to be interesting. So the other piece of all of this is, according to what we know, these petitions that were not selected but submitted may linger into the system until October 1st or September 30th. And that is when we're going to know, okay, this is closed now and no one else will be selected under this year's process. Okay, so timeline. Obviously, preparation, we're all working on doing that now. In our case, we're working on the basic registration information. And so we have that down for everybody that we're working with. So the information registration for the registrant and the information that needs to be inputted for the registration for the potential beneficiary. Again, remember that first slide that I gave you with the commitments that we all have that are going to interfere. I mean, I'm thinking back and I'm like, oh my goodness, December 31st, where did it go? We're almost at the end of February. The time is going to pass very, very quickly. And so we're already strategizing if the person gets selected, what prevailing wage are we going to be using? What ONET category are we going to be using? That was one of my meetings this morning with the tech manager. The prevailing wage that we had for their position was was higher than what they were going to be paying. So we were strategizing, what else can we do? So we're going beyond the basic registration so that we're ready to move forward with petition filing, open selection. Same deal with the LCA. That's why we're making the determinations as to ONET category, prevailing wages, titles, and all all of that. Selection is going to happen. Lottery is going to happen. We're going to know who was selected through the My USCIS account. LCA certification, again, some cases we may file the LCA before the lottery in that little gap period between March 20th and March 30th to avoid the potential flag issues when everyone that is selected decides to file their LCA. and then it also it provides us with the ability to file these petitions again right within April, if particularly if needed for some foreign nationals, and that timeline is another slide that I'm going to go through. And then again, H-1B petitions and filing and USCIS adjudication. So that's kind of the regular timeline. Okay, so again, key dates to remember: February 24th, registrants, the petitioning employers can begin creating the USCIS accounts. So again, for all of you on the line that are registrants, this is not accessible for you, and you're going to have about a week. Obviously, you can create them after March 1st, but the sooner I think that those accounts can be created, the more comfortable you're going to be that at least you have one thing checked off that needs to happen. So March 1st, this is the first time. So this is again thinking of IRS. It's like on March 1st, we're all going to be able to see for the first time what this is going to look like. And actually March 1st, nicely for us and kindly USCIS, it's a Sunday. So that's when they propose that they're going to open the registration. That's the first time that we're going to see what this is going to look like. And then we are going to be able to prepare the G28s, prepare the registrations, work with our clients to get these cases into the registration system. March 20th is when the USCIS intends to hold the registration open. According to the regulations, they can close them March 15th. So that's something else to keep in mind. March 31st is the day in which USCIS intends to notify selected beneficiaries. So sometime between March 20th and March 30th, that's when that my USCIS account will change from registered to selected. And then March 1st would be the earliest day that the H-1B subject petitions can be filed. When we were on the call with USCIS last time, and this is actually a question that I got on this call when we did this webinar before, they have been asked whether they were going to stagger the filing. So meaning when you get your registration, when you get your selection notice, it will say, you've been selected, blah, blah, blah. You can file your petition from April 1st to June 30th. So USCIS was asked, well, are you going to stagger that? So maybe some are going to say, well, you can file from April 5th to July 5th, something to that effect. So stagger the filing. They said no. So as of today, everyone will have the same 90-day period from April 1st through June 30th. That's potential benefit for some, not for others. There's always pros and cons with all of this. The general information, basic information that needs to be gathered, like essential, is right there underneath. Some of you, again, you were on the call last time, some of you were not. To the foreign nationals, I'm telling them, look at your passport. My husband all the time is asking me, when is our going to passport expire? Because it's when you need it the most that it's expiring or about to expire or expired. So the passport number is important for the foreign nationals. So if your passport is expiring, it is a good idea to work on renewing it, because the passport number is required for this registration. If you have a different passport when we file your H-1B petition, anything that can confuse the USCIS these days, you want to avoid. And I can guarantee you it's going to happen, that we're going to have some people that their passport has expired. But for you that are proactively listening to this and can do something about it, look at your passports and see if there's anything you need to do. Again, this is what we know. When you go into your account, so for those registrants on the call, this is one of the screenshots that we've seen. When you go to register, this is going to be the account. You're going to have this account type. you will be registering as I am an H-1B registrant, again, available April 24th. So once you do that, and once we get into March 1st, which is when we're both going to have access to this account, this is the two-factor authentication process that is also new for this year. Again, just remember that first slide that I said to you, you're going to have all this other things going on in your days. And this is just a new thing to add to your checklist. It is called a handshake between the employer and their attorney to submit the H-1 registrations and the G-28s. The way this is expected to work is on, I'm going to say March 2nd. We are going to be able to go into those accounts. We're going to be able to prepare the registration and the G-28 with the information that we both have agreed that is the information that needs to be entered. USCIS is going to issue me a code, a password, as the attorney, and I'm going to need to provide that passcode to you, the registrant. You will log into your USCIS account, my USCIS account, and you will approve my G-28 and you will approve my H-1B registration. I received that notification that you have approved my registration and my G-28, and then I can continue working on that matter. So this is going to require some planning and coordination. So again, this is the registration handshake, new for 2020. Again, and this is kind of, so I explained before the process of what was supposed to happen. This is the screenshot that you're going to see, that you receive a password from your attorney or representative, and here's where you're going to be entering your passcode. Then again, this is the screenshot that you are, and again, when we were on the call with USCIS, they said, well, this is the screenshots that we have right now. This is all under evolution. So it may be a little different, but this is kind of what it should look like. Next. So selection process, again, this is kind of, I'm repeating some of these things, but I know it's a lot of evolving information. Lottery, once the registration period ends, March 20th, USCIS will conduct the lottery. Actually, to their credit, in the last few years, they have conducted the lottery very, very quickly. So I would not be surprised, just because they're trying to prove a point of how on top of things they are, that on March 21st or 22nd, that they're going to say lottery has been conducted, whoever was selected it's selected. But basically they have from March 20th to the 31st to update those registrations to selected. They intend to notify us through the My USCIS account. This has always been a question, how are they going to do it? Again, not a stagger. We're all going to have the same 90-day window to file. And that's it. So for employers, what to do now? Again, going back to who's going to be your signatory, this is going to be important now that you see some of the things that need to happen with the handshake and the double authentication. Select that person that is going to be the signatory for your account. As soon as you can get into the My USCIS account, go ahead and set it up. In my last newsletter, if you're part of the newsletter that we send out, I included a link to a video, a very short video. It's about 3 minutes from USCIS on how to set up My USCIS account. And that will probably help for those that are our clients. We're putting together a little email that will have this, and also we have some of the screenshots that we feel will probably help you through this process. Again, become familiar with the MyUSCIS site, and be ready first week of March to work with your attorney and representative to get those things done. Again, I know at least one or two of our clients are going to be on vacation that week. So we're going to, that's something we have to take into consideration. Um, for foreign nationals, again, passport expirations, renew if needed, consider potential travel abroad and inability to travel. It does not matter how many times I say this. It doesn't matter how many times they tell me no, I don't have to travel. No, and this is not going to happen. Okay, I understood. Invariably, I get 2, 3 emails. Oh my gosh, I have the dream of my life just became available to me, and I need to travel. I will cover travel, and I'm going to say to you, if you're in a cap gap period, no matter whether it is the dream of your life, you could be potentially putting everything at risk if you travel. So please, please consider your travel requirements now. Provide your education, your immigration, and other documents as soon as possible to your immigration counsel. Again, as part of this preparation right now, a bachelor's degree is essential for an H-1B. I have some clients that are abroad right now, and literally just 2 days ago, I said and this was a bachelor's degree from the Middle East, Turkey. And I wasn't really sure if that was going to be equivalent to a bachelor's degree in the United States. And we were also trying to figure out if it is a bachelor's degree, what is it going to be? And is it going to be a business administration plus? And we were doing this strategy, and I said to Ellen, you know what, let's just send it out and get a bachelor's degree accreditation, just that at least I can breathe a sign of relief that at least I have a bachelor's degree. Because if this person doesn't have a bachelor's degree and I need to start figuring out March 20th whether they have a bachelor's degree or not, there's no point if the credential evaluation tells me they don't have a bachelor's degree. So that is all happening right now. And again, we're trying to check off as many of those boxes as we can, because everything is going to come in very, very quickly. For everybody, continuous correspondence and responsiveness. Again, as you know, we're talking to you. Um, I'm going out, I'm meeting clients, we're doing webinars, I'm putting stuff out in the newsletters. The more you know, the more you're in tune with what's happening. And again, it's happening quickly, and it's changing. The more prepared you are going to be. Establish eligibility for every potential beneficiary in the position as much as possible. Again, I've given you examples of prevailing wage, giving you examples of the degree equivalency, titles, all of that. As much as you can, get it managed right now. Then consider the strategies for those on OPT and STEM. Again, know that there could potentially be issues with the flag system, and then whether premium would be available or not, whether to use it or not, and remain flexible. Potential registration suspension, potential flag system inability to use, all of that could happen. Okay. I would almost say, and probably 50 or more of our foreign nationals that we're working with are in F1 going into this process. They're either on OPT because they just finished their bachelor's degree and they have their EAD OPT, or so that's one scenario. The other one is the OPT with no STEM option, or they have OPT plus a STEM option, or I guess that's kind of it. So this is really, really important because some of you are going to have the OPT, EAD with no STEM option. And it's important to understand when the cap gap comes into play. In the past, because the filing window was April 1st to April 5th, say, everything had to be filed and done by April 5th. So there was no real issue as to this gap period. I mean, it was there, but if you were an OPT EAD at the time of filing, so that would have been April 1st, then pretty much as long as your petition was accepted, you will be in this gap period. What is going to happen this year, though, for some of you, is that you're going to have a filing window that is going to be from April 1st through June 30th. And for some of you, you may have an OPT that ends, say, July 2nd. Well, your petition for the cap gap to become effective, your petition has to be filed and accepted before your OPT expires. So it has to be filed within that time period in order for the cap gap to become effective. So we have put little stars, that's kind of what that star is there, to those that have OPT ending and that are going to be into this cap gap period, because those are petitions that we're also going to be much more attentive with to ensure as much as we can that the foreign workers, the foreign nationals have this cap gap, and obviously that our employers can benefit from this cap gap period. Something very important also to remember is that cap gap period is only good until September 30th. Beyond, again, remember the filing, the fiscal year. I have so much in my mind that I'm trying to pass on to you. It's October 1st. October 1st is the fiscal year. So that cap gap will end September 30th. Hopefully, and again, so this strategy of premium processing will also come in play here. If we're getting close to September and petitions have not been adjudicated and we're going to potentially lose cap gap, strategically, we're going to have to think premium processing. Last year, what happened is as we were approaching October 1st, and I had petitions that had not been adjudicated that should have been adjudicated, I told some of my employers, the closer we get to October 1st, the higher the chances that we're going to get an RFE. And sure enough, some of them got adjudicated, and I had petitions that had exactly the same job description, pretty much everything the same, that got approved prior to October 1st. But as we approached October 1st, the RFE came, only just to delay the processing. So all of this, again, things to keep in mind. So just to recap this cap gap. So the petition file prior to June 1st, the cap gap should run in. If the petition is filed, and again, the change of status also is something to consider, because in order for the cap gap period to become effective, the petition has to be filed as change of status, not as a consular processing. So if the petition is filed, change of status after post OPT, and it's out of this the June 30th period, the foreign national gets a 60 days grace period, but not work authorization. And again, a lot of things to remember, but that's why this slide is here. Okay, so I'm going to kind of touch that again on the next slide. And for those of you that this may not affect you, I apologize. Hopefully you're going to, you're going to learn some of the complexities of this process and appreciate how important partnership and all of this is. But I know that a significant majority of those of you online and those that we work with are going, the F1 student status is it's very relevant to them and to our employers. So to kind of cover some of this again, the F1 student and work authorization and how this works. So CPT, curriculum practical training, is only while the person is enrolled in a school. For some of you on the call, you may not get selected. You may not have the STEM OPT option. And one of the only practical options, there's many other options, and we are going to be talking to some of you about those. But the reality is that in practicality, for many of you, CPT will be the option. Meaning if you're not selected, you will enroll back in a school under CPT, authorized by the school each term. In fact, I have someone right now that we went through this process last year. Unfortunately, she is a U.S. bachelor's degree, not a U.S. master's. She was not selected. We have strategized with her. We strategized on the curriculum that she's on now. She is on a track for a U.S. master's degree. We will be applying for another H-1B for her this year. She is under CPT, and the program that she's on is the CPT program that only gets approved every, I think she said to me, every, I think 10 weeks or something like that. So it can be it can be a pain, but I mean, the employer is thrilled because she has a very, very unique set of skills, and she's been able to continue to study and work for them part-time. So between 1 and 20 hours a week during the academic semesters, and the I-120 with the CBT approval. Then there is the OPT. Many of you are there. So that's optional practical training, typically used after graduation, 12 months maximum, full-time, meaning over 20 hours a week. This is approved by the school, authorized by USCIS, and that's where many of you have the employment authorization document with your OPT designation on it. Now, that OPT is accessible to pretty much everyone that graduates with a bachelor's degree. And then the gift for some of you that I've talked to you about the STEM OPT, because to me it's a gift, and they could be taken away the same way that it was given. Even though actually if you give a gift, you should not take it away, but that's immigration world, it's a different world, it's the reality world. So this gift can be taken away. It is only for designated STEM majors, which this is another conversation, a strategic decision. I mean, if I'm a foreign national, I may want to have a master's in business administration because that's what I had in mind and that's what I dream of having. But a master's in business administration will not get me STEM OPT. So if there is anything close to what I dream of having that will get me STEM OPT, I recommend that you pick that option because they will, at this point, give you a lot of opportunities that you may not have if the end goal is to live and work in the United States. So again, there is a designated field of a STEM major. So if you're in this period where you are OPT, but you have an option of a STEM, or you're having to decide, some of you here that are very proactive, and again, kudos to you, you're still not even close to the STEM OPT, but when you're making those decisions, and you're trying to select a master's or pick something that is a STEM if it's something relates to what you want to do. Only used after post OPT, 24 months, full-time, over 20 hours, authorized by USCIS. Again, you need an EAD, an employment authorization document. A question that I get asked a lot is, well, should I apply for the STEM OPT? The answer is yes, yes, yes. It is a gift. Take it. If you have that amazing opportunity, even if you have OPT, that is good until, we'll carry you through the cap gap. Again, giving you an example of what happened last year, we had clients that, again, were an OPT, had the opportunity to apply for a STEM OPT, asked us that question, we say yes, apply for your STEM OPT, even if you get, if you're selected. And even and what happened is, remember that, and this actually was a different case, they did apply for the STEM OPT. Here comes October 1st. We got the RFE because they had applied for the STEM OPT, and because they have gotten the EAD STEM OPT, or they had their authorized extension because of the application. This person was able to continue to work through January of this year, 2020, when finally USCIS approved that petition. If they would not have taken advantage of this STEM OPT, that person would have had to stop working October 1st. So for those of you wondering if it's worth it, yes. Again, and so here we go with this international travel. For those of you that affects us, please pay attention and make as many informed decisions as you can. Take care of your travels. If you have a filed pending H-1B with a change of status, I would recommend do not travel. This is, if you travel, your petition could be deemed abandoned. So again, filed. So you went through the registration process, you were selected, we file your petition, that petition is pending with a change of a status, you're taking advantage of that cap gap, it has not been adjudicated, please plan to stay in the United States. Second scenario, after the H-1B with a change of a status has been approved, but do you want to travel because this beautiful place in the world that you have never seen before becomes available to you, and this happens to be that you have to travel September 1st. So before October 1st, when your H-1B becomes available, you're so lucky that you've made it through all this process, and now it's September 1st and you need to travel. Again, my recommendation will be do not travel, but it is, it's a personal decision that we need to make. But if you do travel, you're not going to be able to enter the United States until after October 1st with a new H-1B visa. So now what happens if you made your plans, and thankfully this is where I would probably say the majority of our clients were last year. So after H-1B, change of status approval, you need to travel, you want to go home, you've had enough of the United States and you really want to see your family in November. So after October 1st, what will have to happen is, yes, you're welcome to leave, you're welcome to travel abroad. Now you have an F1 visa, many of you in your passport, you will not be able to travel with that F1B back. So you're going to have to cancel a process, obtain an H-1B visa in your passport, and you're going to come back. I know many of you, again, want to travel through the holidays, and that is understandable. That is also the time where everyone in the world wants to go on vacation. That's also the time where consulates have the highest number of that's the most work. So if possible, again, we all want to be with families. So I'm just saying, putting it out there, if you can control not having to travel right at the peak season, it's potentially to your benefit. I'm going to give you an example of what happened last year. We had clients that tried to get appointments ended up in Shanghai, but where were they? They were applying in Beijing. we went in with them, tried to, after the DS-160 was filed and they were trying to get their appointment in Beijing, but sure enough, Beijing had no appointments for 2 months. And so we re-strategized and thought, okay, what else? What is closed? Where else could you go? Decision was made, they could go to Shanghai. So off to Shanghai they went. First one went, no problems, H-1B, easy interview, everything was done, approved, no problem, came back in the United States. So the second one, very similar situation. So we thought, no problems. Um, Went through the interview, officer said, yeah, no problem, your petition, your visa has been approved. You're good for, in 5-6 days, whatever, you'll get your passport back. 5-6 days come and gone, passport is not back. Again, this is peak season, traveling season. He notified the consulate, said, what's going on, da da da. Consulate decides, oh, we're going to put you on administrative processing. Very, 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 very stressful. At the end, it all worked out. He was delayed abroad, I think, for about a week or two, but things change. And again, at peak season, there's very little time to make changes. So just keep all of that in mind as you make um, uh, travel plans. I know some of you have put comments or questions on the chat, and I will try to get to them, but really I want to address the bigger pictures. Everything that I've gotten in the chat so far are very specific to specific situations, and some of them I've already addressed. Um, so I'm going to just keep moving for the benefit of the general population in the call. Again, current challenges, the first one that we're all going to face is coming up very quickly in 4 days, and that's going to be the registration for my USCIS account for registrants. Look forward to working with all of you that are involved in this process and facilitating that process for you. The next challenge is going to be the March 1st, opening of registrations, open of the G28. The uncertainties that is going to bring and the technology issues that they may arise. Next challenge after that is going to be where you were selected or where you were not selected, and what are your options after that. Then some of the next challenges on this slide are things that we're addressing right now with our clients that we can address, and that is, whether it is a specialty occupation, whether if we get an RFE, do we have a team of people that are already working that we can say, yeah, it's the natural course of business for our client, the employer, to have bachelor's degrees in this position. The other one, as you heard me talk about, the prevailing wage. What are we going to have to do? Can we use a private survey? Can we change the on-ed category? And those that we're addressing proactively as we can. And the next one that I need you to all be aware of, and please be flexible, the delays in the system are just amazing. So if you think it's going to take 2 weeks, it's going to take 4. So just be aware of that. How are we addressing the challenges? Again, as much as possible, strategic early case evaluation and planning, partnering with you, our clients, doing this communications, preparing extensive documentation. Literally, with the client that I went to visit this morning, I had to find the lightest, biggest bag that I could find to put the one of the petitions that we're working on in that. And I said to him, when we looked at it, he's like, oh my God, that's big. And I'm like, that's only half of it, because it didn't have the PIMS file. So it's the second copy that goes with the filing. So extensive documentation. It's hard sometimes when we send it to you online. The electronic version it doesn't feel or look as big as the amount of papers that we're working with right now. Staying alert for changes, adjusting for changes, proactively, that's what you're doing right now. Again, actually, I forgot that this was here. This is kind of a sample of what I took to a client this morning. This is what some of these petitions are looking like. Again, I know that there is a lot of information on the internet. I also go to internet. I think that I can just Google and find the answer. But not everything that, as you know, that you're going to be reading out there is correct. Even, and actually, this is another example. It just happened last week. Not even the information that we're getting from USCIS is correct. And this was a client with an STEM OPT EAD extension pending, which should get an automatic extension authorization. And the link to USCIS was providing the wrong information. So the client called me in a panic. And I'm like, wait a minute, you're not looking at the right, the right screen. Anyway, we got it solved. But so please be aware that even our government database is sometimes not correct. The future, hopefully someday more H-1Bs. I'm starting from the bottom up. But really the closer future is more restricted eligibility. The OPT and the STEMs that we see today are changing. The specialty occupation definitions are expected to change. So be on the lookout for more changes. And again, thank you so much. We're at exactly 3:01 right now. And I thank you for being here, for being proactive. We look forward to working with many of you on this process. And again, thank you for being there. Keep calm, wait, embrace the process with us. And thank you so much.